Welcome to The Real Deal with Sean Matthews, where we have real conversations with real people and entrepreneurs and business owners alike. Today, I have a very special guest. I met him at a business networking event about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago. Maybe it was longer. I can't remember exactly when it was, but we hit it off straight away, and we've been in the same networks probably the last 6 months to a year.
Yep.
His name is Mark Pope. And Mark Pope has a very holistic understanding of life, health, and business that was developed through founding one of Australia's largest wellness centers before becoming CEO of a national business improvement consultancy serving a wide range of clients from SMEs, I think, to ASX listed companies. I think, Mark, we might need you to go into a bit of detail for us there. He has grown successful business through his purpose of making a difference, together with his focus on creating quality outcomes for his clients. But Mark has also tasted failure, times when your idea of the defines and create success become completely unended. He believes that this breadth of experience, together with his willingness to share the lessons from both the good and the bad times, both in business and personal, that helps his clients the most. Mark works hard to help them build their business and be more profitable, but he also understands the importance of personal fulfillment and creating great relationships that are the real definition of success. Mark is a wonderful human being, and welcome, Mark, to my podcast today.
Thanks, Sean. It's great to be here.
So good to have you here. And all of that is what I just said. I think maybe if we go into a little bit of detail later, what your background is with the Wellness Center. I'm very curious on that, actually, now. How did you get started in the Wellness Center?
So my first career was as a chiropractor. I graduated from uni back in 1985, and I spent the first 20 years of my career in WA. And my approach to chiropractic, which I guess a lot of chiropractors do, is very much wellness focused. We were less concerned, that's probably not the right word, but we're less focused on the symptoms someone had, but looking at their life from a holistic point of view, understanding. And one of the core principles of chiropractic is recognizing that the human body has this amazing ability to heal and repair itself. So rather than trying to treat someone's condition or symptoms, our focus is always trying to help them to be as healthy as they possibly can. Because if we could help them achieve that, whatever they were coming in with and even other health problems would then start to improve, because we took that holistic approach, just supporting the body in its ability to heal and maintain. And we'd get great outcomes there.
Oh, I lost you there, Mark. Oh, there you are. That's fantastic. Okay, continue. The holistic approach is a funny technology. It cuts in and out when you're on the go.
It is, yeah. So that was an exciting time in my life. You know, I had a great career. I built a very busy practice, and it was interesting back in those days that, you know, there was no Facebook, there was no social media, and in WA where I was practicing, we weren't even allowed to advertise. We were allowed just a one-line entry in the Yellow Pages, for those listeners who remember what the Yellow Pages were.
Yes, I remember the Yellow Pages.
But yet we built this really great business that was built on great culture, great communication. We had a brilliant team. You know, we had a waiting list of people wanting to come and see us without advertising. We just built this great, loving, caring practice that people wanted to be a part of. So it was a really special time in my life, and I look back very fondly on my time in that practice. But then at the end of 2005, you know, my wife and I were wanting to move back home to Melbourne, and our son had finished high school then, and so we moved back to Melbourne. I sold the business and relocated back to Melbourne, and like that was another interesting time in my life, but probably not as much fun as the first part, you know. We talk about, you know, failures and challenges, and that was, I really hit the wall in Melbourne, and it was wasn't much fun, but there was some great learning in that for me. that, I guess helped me onto a path that I'm continuing now.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the subject of this podcast is finding your authentic voice. So I guess in those challenges and in those times that you were going through adversity, what was your biggest takeaway and what was your biggest lesson, and how do you help clients with these moving forward?
So it was a big shock leaving that practice in WA, where I was very well known in the community. I was very well known within my profession, and was often asked to speak to conferences about how to be successful and how to grow a wellness practice, and sharing my ideas and mentoring other chiropractors who were wanting to achieve something similar. So when I went back to Melbourne, everything changed for me. I hadn't realised until I got back to Melbourne how much of my identity was tied up in that business. My sense of self, my self-respect and self-esteem and so on. At the same time, that marriage failed, and I was back in my hometown, but a place I hadn't lived in for 20 years. And I was very sad and lonely. My family structure had broken down, my business structure had broken down. I was really lost. And from someone who was really confident and super confident in my own sense of self and my abilities, to find within a really short period of time I was struggling and I didn't know what to do. And one of the things I've learned, and it was probably the darkest period of my life, and I guess the contrast between what I'd experienced only 6 months before and where I was when I was back home in Melbourne was a big shock. But I'd just been through these major changes, and something I learned in my second business around business improvement was problem-solving techniques. And there's one called the 5 whys. And when you have a problem in business, you just ask yourself, well, why is that a problem? And then you come up with an answer, and then you ask why again. Well, why is that a problem? And why is that a problem? And I actually did that one day with my struggles in Melbourne. And what I came down to was, I was struggling because I'd lost my identity. Why had I lost my identity? Because it was so tied up in my business rather than and what I was doing instead of who I am. And as I broke it down, the biggest problem that the biggest cause behind all those problems was my lack of vulnerability. That I was so self-assured and so self-confident. I just didn't give space for anyone to support me and to advise me and to help me out of just that horrible black time in my life. And so there was a big lesson for me in developing more openness, trying to learn how to be vulnerable, and getting a bit more humility as well. So they're lessons that have stood me well. But, the vulnerability thing, which for me is very tied with authenticity, is probably, my biggest driver in personal growth these days. I think it's just an ongoing challenge for most people.
Yes, exactly. And it's amazing what you've said, all of that. And the vulnerability is like, the authentic self as well. It comes hand in hand, which is what happens. But what happened when you were in that place and you were in between, and you said that, and I think a lot of people can relate to this with your business, okay? And so you've lost your self-identity, and when you lost your business, you lost your relationship at that stage, or you were going through those struggles. A lot of people can relate to that. This isn't the first conversation I've had really that people have had this time and issue and problem. So how did you become that self-aware and and how did you build that confidence to move into where you are now and what you're doing now as a career?
I would love to be able to say that I had this incredible epiphany back in that time, and my life changed completely. But being a man and stubborn, I did get some lessons out of that. But I fixed a lot of my problems in a very masculine way by finding another business and just trying to find my identity in that second business. And the business worked really well. And I got a lot out of that that experience of working in a small wellness centre to running a larger business, working with big corporations and learning about the other side of what makes businesses tick. And that was a successful business, and we were able to retire in early 2016 and to have that like a parent dream life of, traveling all over the world and doing exciting things. And but in the end, I found that was pretty shallow, and it wasn't really serving what was missing in my life. And so a couple of years ago, that marriage ended as well. So I remarried, that ended, and I left that marriage thinking, what the F am I doing with myself and with my life? And that was when I really got smashed. And I did a lot of things and a lot of self-inquiry, and I spent a couple of weeks in India in January 2020, and that just exposed a lot of my issues around intimacy and vulnerability, and understanding where it all came from, where those primal fears that so many of us carry came from, and just learning how to deal with them better and understand them better. And look, I use the word deal with them. I don't think you can. You just got to, jump in and lean into them and accept them and work through them. It's not so much dealing with them, but it's accepting them, and that they are part of who you are, and trying to find out what's underneath all that stuff. And that's, I guess, my search for that authentic voice was driven by all of that. So I've done a lot of things in the last couple of years, just exploring that more and more, and a range of different things about understanding who I am at my essence and trying to be true to that. So it's easy to say.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of layers there, isn't there, Mark? There's a lot of layers. And I think that, you've just put a point out there that it's the layers, and it's not just one answer. You have to go by layer by layer by layer to actually see where your authentic voice fits in, who you really are, and how that all looks to you in your inner world rather than your outer world.
Totally. The layers, it's just we're onions in that respect. There's just so much under there, and it's just a question of continuing to dig until you understand. For me, I've got a lot of satisfaction or fulfillment from understanding where my triggers came from, and forgiving the people around me about those situations, and having that understanding and empathy for them and what they were going through. And that's helped me a lot with my own healing and understanding. But at the end of the day, you just got to learn to accept it and do it anyway. I don't know how much we actually really change, but we just get better at having the courage to work through it and find that openness and that authenticity, because it is fulfilling. And it just comes back to the topic that we came up with for today.
Yes, exactly. And finding your authentic self. It's also about having conversations like this and building connections and building relationships, and then learning from each other. I think that's also another way to find out about yourself in different ways. And I guess in your line of work, I don't know everything about your business and what you do. So maybe you can touch on how you got started in this business that you're in now, and how you move forward, or how you move your clients forward. I know you do a few workshops here and there, and what you're working on now.
Okay, so my approach is we do a lot of work on their business. I've built 2 very successful businesses. I know how to grow a business, and I approach it from a very much a leadership culture, communications perspective. Like, I understand the processes and things we need to do in business to make it successful and grow. But I think what really makes a business special is building the right culture and being able to have the right conversations within the organisation and setting expectations. And so much of that is about communication. But then I look at the personal side of things as well, and that what holds so many business owners back from creating a good culture and for finding fulfillment in themselves. I work with a lot of people that make ridiculous amounts of money, but they're not necessarily happy or feeling any fulfillment. And that just seems such a shame to me, that you've got everything that you need in terms of structure and infrastructure, but maybe you just don't have the heart for it. So I work with people to try to find more money and find more time within their business. But I also want them to find more fulfillment and we have conversations about their sense of purpose, their self-love and self-esteem, around intimacy and vulnerability, and how they feel, how important they feel those things might be. And then we talk about that in the context of their important relationships. How much do they value their relationship with their key partner? And if they think that that's really important, they rate that as a 9 or a 10 out of 10. Well, how are they going in that relationship at the moment? And if it's only a 5 or 6 out of 10, they have a problem. And so it's about understanding what the real priorities in your life are. And we all need some money to live, but we don't need multi-million dollars to be happy. We need to have some money, but if we don't have a good relationship with ourselves, and that's where the authenticity comes in, it becomes hard to have a good relationship with somebody else. And that applies in your personal life. But if you want to lead a business and you don't have a good sense of yourself or authenticity, you're just being hamstrung the whole time. So it all connects. We talk about work-life balance. Well, we don't have 2 lives. We've got one. We just got to make it all work.
Yeah, the work-life balance seems to be a difficult one for everyone. And I'm always trying to keep my balance with the work-life balance.
Yeah.
And seriously, I don't know if it's real or not. How do you actually help your clients or even organizations that you work with keep that personal life and business afloat, I guess you could say?
Yeah. So it's about having conversations, and I've developed a questionnaire which gives me a framework where people rate the 3 main areas of their life. So we talk about themselves and how they relate to themselves. We talk about their relationships, and we talk about different aspects of their career or the work that they do. And I get them to rate for me how important all of those factors are in their lives. What's the priority around that? And then against that priority, I want them to tell me how it's all going. So if there's a factor in their life that might be around fitness, and they rate it as a 6 out of 10 for importance, and if their performance level is a 6 out of 10, that's fine. Everything's in balance there. But if they think that self-love is important as a 9 out of 10, but they beat themselves up all the time and their performance is only a 5 out of 10, they've got a major problem that we want to talk about. And I don't tell my clients so much what to do or what I think they should do, but we have a lot of conversations about inconsistencies in what they tell me. And if you tell me that this relationship is so important, but then you're spending 60 hours a week at your work, what does that all mean? What are you really telling me? There's inconsistencies there. So you're lying about one of them. Which one is it?
Yeah, exactly. Which one is it? Do you really love the work more than the relationship? Or is that relationship, are you in the right relationship? So interesting. Wow.
So there's no judgment, but you want them to account for themselves.
Yeah.
Because when you can't account for what you do, then there's some internal stress there. You can't be happy. You can't feel fulfilled if there's all these internal consistencies. So it's just about trying to work them through.
That's great. So there's a questionnaire. Is that what you said? You have a questionnaire?
Yeah. So I call it the Life KRA. So in business, we talk about if you've got someone in a role, you want to identify what their key results areas are. What are the most important things for you in this role, and what are your KPIs? How are we going to measure them? So I thought, well, that's a good methodology for creating a benchmark and having consistency. Let's apply it to someone's life as well. So I came up with the life key results areas, which are yourself, your relationships, and your work. And for each of those, I came up with 10 subcategories. And under self, we talk about sense of purpose and strength of spirit, self-love, vulnerability, intimacy, a range of things like that. And they're probably the top, but there's a few more in there. And in relationships, it's your life partner, your kids, your parents, your siblings, your close friends. And it's just about just starting to have those conversations. And it just gives you a different perspective on your life and how you allocate your time and resources and focus. And we do the same with work. But on the work side of things, I can help them be more productive and make more money to give them more choice or to find more time that they can then devote back to their relationship. So it's a bit of a juggling act, but I think that's how you find a good life at the end of the day.
Well, you sound very passionate about it, and I know that you're helping many, many people, me included, which is fantastic. Every time I have a conversation with you when I'm in a networking event, we always have something to talk about, which is fantastic. I know you're great at conversation.
Yeah.
And
never
openness is
stuck
a
for
strong
week.
suit.
Yeah. But you talk about the topic of your podcast is the real deal. This is the real stuff in life. It's about how we connect with ourselves and how we connect with other people. For work, it's nice to have a good job and make some money, but if you don't have the other stuff, it's just shallow.
Oh, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. So that actually comes to my next question is how are you fulfilled in your life? Or how do you become fulfilled? I know a few things in your life, but why don't you tell a little bit about your life and how you're fulfilled in your life? I can't believe I just repeated that, but anyway.
So it's a good question. I do a lot of self-exploration. I try to journal most days and be reflective there. I get a lot of fulfillment out of the work that I do. I love, and I guess that I've been fortunate to have had now my third career and found a lot of fulfillment out of each of them, of being a chiropractor, of running the business improvement consultancy, and what I'm doing now of just, and it's about making a difference and seeing people change. And I love having conversations where I can challenge someone and provoke them into seeing something about what they do or in their life, and they think about it a different way. If I can do that, that's a little thing, but it's a huge thing too, So there, I like hanging out with people. I like doing the networking. When I moved up to the Gold Coast 4 years ago, I started a men's book club, a men's only book club. And that's really rewarding too. It's just giving men an opportunity to have good conversations, which we've struggled with a lot. And book club has 2 rules, which I love. The first rule is you're not allowed to talk about where you work or what you do, because we want to know who you are, not what you are. And the second rule is, I don't know if you're not allowed to be an F-head. And that's actually on the website, expletive not deleted. And what that means is, but what that means is we don't want any bigots. There's no space for any misogyny, racism, homophobia, anything like that. And if you are, you get spoken to. And if you keep it up, you get told to leave. Yeah. And
good rule.
It's and because we have those rules in place, we'll discuss a novel, and it's all fiction. We'll discuss a novel, but there'll be themes within the novel that we relate to. It'll be about a relationship with your partner or your kids or your parents, and we just talk about our own experiences there too. So it's pretty open and it gets pretty raw, but it's just a really good environment for guys to get together once a month and just talk about this stuff.
Oh, that's fantastic! And how many guys are in your group at the same time?
So I started the Gold Coast chapter. There's about 45 chapters, mainly in Australia, but around the world. Okay. We will have anywhere from 8 to 16 guys come along on a Wednesday night. We do it at the first Wednesday of the month at 7 o'clock at an Irish pub in Surfers Paradise.
Irish pub,
every group around the world meets on the first Wednesday of the month at 7 o'clock, and we're all discussing the same book. So there's a nice synchronicity around that. And we get a real bond between the groups. So I know I can go to be in another area or another city, and if there's a book club on while I'm there, I go, and I'm just welcomed with open arms. And I've done that a number of times. It's a really good network of guys.
It's fantastic for guys to have those networks, because I don't know about you, but I think that it's harder for guys to speak up and tell their stories out in public than it is for women, because women always love to chit chat. And we get together and have coffees and do all these sort of things. But a lot of men out there, they struggle to speak up. So these book clubs sound really good.
We just don't know how to do it. But what I found so often is that a new guy comes along, and whether it's there or another groups that I might be a part of, and once you give them the forum and they know it's safe, it all comes out, and it's great to see.
Fantastic.
Really healthy stuff.
Yeah, really healthy. Well, everything you're doing is quite healthy, which is fantastic.
I try. Yeah.
So the fulfillment. So you book club, you have a questionnaire, and assessment. I think. Do you have an assessment that you want to give away?
What I was talking about. Yeah, absolutely. So what I was talking about before, the Life KRA, it's a PDF. You can work it through. There's descriptions about everything that we're looking for. It shows you how to chart, gives you some reflection. yeah, I'd be happy to share that with your audience. And if they have any questions, they can, my contact details will be there, so they can get in touch with me through that or through the website. I would just be happy to have a chat to them about that.
Perfect. Yes, we're going to put your website in the show notes as well and below the YouTube clip. So,
okay, fantastic.
Yeah, everything will be there. But I do have one last question, and I actually ask everyone this. And that is, if the theme is finding your authentic voice, and this is the podcast of The Real Deal. If you wanted any listener that was listening or watching this podcast, what would you want them to really take away from these conversations we're having?
Oh, I'm going to steal something from Brené Brown. Find the thing that scares you the most and do that. Yeah, that's where your shit lies.
Yeah. Very good. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Thank you. I appreciate that. I love Brené Brown. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mark, for coming on my podcast today. It's been wonderful to have a conversation with you. I'd like to have you on because I'm sure you're a wealth of knowledge. And if anyone wants to contact Mark, everything will be in the show notes or below this YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. And remember to subscribe. And thank you for being here again, Mark. And this is The Real Deal with Sean Matthews, where we have real conversations with real people and entrepreneurs alike. Thanks, everyone, and goodbye for now.